Clear 2 tables, waiting for the third table to come over here.
When migraine strikes, do you question the trade-offs of treatment? With Ubrelvy, there's another option. Ubrelvy works fast. Most have migraine pain within 2 hours. Without worrying where you are or if it's too late. Don't take this risk. There may be horrible bitters. Allergic reactions to Ubrelvy can happen. Most common side effects are not serious. Relief starts with you. Ask about Ubrelvy. Learn how AbbVie can help you save. Our story begins more than 65 years ago inside an abandoned chicken coop where our founder discovered a retired teacher living at home, no health care. So she said no to this injustice and yes to transforming lives. It's this drive, this compassion that inspired AARP. Today we empower people to choose how they live as they age. As a wise friend who pierced dementia, we advocate for better health, financial security, and stronger communities. AARP, join us in making a difference.
What do you do when your tires are low and you've got someplace to go? What if the solution was right in your pocket? Introducing Pocket Air Pro by Bullseye, the compact compressor that goes anywhere to fill it up with air. Equipped with a 4,500 milliamp rechargeable lithium-ion battery, that's enough power to fill 4 car tires on a single charge, and the whole family's bike tires in no time. It puts the power of a full-size air compressor in your pocket. Low pressure warning? Fill it up with Pocket Air. Motorcycle tire flat? Pocket Air Pro can fill it. Take it with you to class to fill it up fast. Whether inflating basketballs or soccer balls, Pocket Air can do it all. Featuring an advanced smart pressure sensor, it automatically stops when your set limit pressure is reached. Simply set it and let it inflate completely hands-free. Pocket Air Pro is lightweight, durable, and is powerful enough to lift all that weight. Even a trailer loaded with thousands of pounds of equipment is no match for Pocket Air Pro. Pocket Air is powerful enough to inflate this giant truck with an ultra-bright LED light and a large display screen. It's
I'm out.
At night. And with 4 custom air nozzles on board, it's perfect for pool toys, exercise balls, and more. Gas station air out of order? Fill it up anytime, anywhere with Pocket Air. Call or go online now and get the complete Pocket Air Pro system for just $79.99. It comes with a carry case, a charger, and a 90-day money-back guarantee. For a limited time, we'll give you a 50% discount on the second one. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free. You get it all at incredible value. Remember, when your air is low, you need Bullseye Pocket Air Pro. Order now. To order, call 1-800-835-6720. That's 1-800-835-6720, or go online to buypocketair.com. That's 1-800-835-6720, or go to buypocketair.com. Sure, this prints business cards, but we also print these and those. And a great thing, we create your brand on everything, so customers notice you, remember you, and fall in love with you. If you need it, we print it with 25% off for new customers at vistaprint.com. Welcome to the internet, a natural place where anyone can be anything they want to be.
Pretending to be an elderly man's bank.
Yeah, you are. I'm a doctor who has what you need to see real results. Fantastic. And I said I could remodel a kitchen.
All in.
Can't?
On the internet, I can.
Don't leave your job to an unfiltered internet search. Angie has 30 years of experience finding the best pros.
Angie, just on that.
Choosing the right candidate for any office is difficult, whether the office is square or even But ZipRecruiter finds quality candidates for your office fast. If only every decision could be this easy.
Raise.
So searching.
message.
No.
We're getting a message from a lot of people. We're not hearing them. One that people should have looked at. She was always carrying 41% of the Hispanics and 25% of the black males.
It's across the map. It's across different parts of the Latino
Yes,
electorate.
get in.
Donald Trump simply put doing better than he did 4 years ago.
A lot of analysis today. Two covers of New York Post, he's dominant again, and Newsweek, Trump, the comeback. The Impact Quick political reporter, Trump's tweet brings a likely GOP trifecta to Washington. At this point, the most likely outcome is a GOP trifecta, including a continued narrow Republican House majority. Yet, given the breadth of Trump's triumph, it's remarkable many down-ballot Democrats are performing as well as they are outrunning Harris. For example, there are 5 Democratic Senate candidates who still have passive victory. In states Trump is on track to win, Democrats won multiple rogue offices in North Carolina. As you look at the screen, we have these races that are popping up, and you see the Senate majority. You can see some of the individual races below, and that will stay up. We'll bring back our panel, Britt, Martha, Kaylee, and Jessica. Britt, a couple of those races, the Senate races, went to the Democrats. In Wisconsin, Tammy Baldwin. In Michigan, Alyssa Slotkin over Mike Rogers.
Close.
Close, very close. Still a couple yet to go. Nevada, Arizona. It looks like Arizona's going to go to the Democrats, and Nevada may actually go to the Republicans, which would be one more. Pretty
Fold.
It is pretty significant. It wasn't necessarily forecast, although the map did favor the Republicans in this cycle. And the House outcome, of course, is chancier for the Republicans. They could hold it, but if they do hold it, it's going to be a margin at least virtually as close as it's been, maybe a little closer. So it'll be rowdy over there.
I should point out that the counts in some of these states are continuing. It's not the secretaries of state are saying there's nothing fishy. It's about doing absentee ballots. Sometimes it takes some time. Some of these states like California, Arizona, just can take a long time. Bernie Sanders, big statement today. It should come as no great surprise that a Democratic Party has abandoned working-class people will find that the working class has abandoned them. I think Senator Sanders is going to go on the tear again.
Cool.
You can always depend on Bernie for one of these postmortems after something like this happens. I would say that while I think he definitely has a point, and you see that borne out in the results, President Biden walked the picket line, right? He was out there with the auto workers. He negotiated for new pensions for the Teamsters. I mean, this is a man who has stood by the working class. And Senators, well, she
Yeah.
part of the Biden administration, or she was part of that as well. And I'm sure that President Biden would have performed better with this. Well, it's not enough to overcome Trump's numbers with this, but I think it's a little bit unfair with how supportive this administration has been of those groups. But Bernie has been making this point since 2016, where he feels that he was shoehorned out of the primary process because the DNC wanted Hillary to be the nominee.
It's not a
It is not. I have it with my husband basically every time.
Hello. Oh. Oh, okay, good. Yep. Yep.
Set me off. He's like, what happened? I'm like, don't do it.
Don't do it. Kayla?
Look, I think Bernie Sanders diagnosed a problem but provided little solution. I think with a second Trump administration, you are going to see progress for working class families. You've heard him say, drill, baby, drill. I think on day one, you're going to see the opposite of what Biden did, rolling back the Keystone XL pipeline. He's going to unleash American energy. I think the number one legislative priority is going to be economic, some of those tax promises that were made. And then when it comes to immigration, I think you're going to see him leverage tariffs, potentially, at least the threat of them, against the president of Mexico and make big progress there just on the executive.
With the House and Senate, you could do reconciliation, which requires only 50 votes. You don't need the 60, and you could do a lot of stuff economically right away.
You could. And I think that you're going to see a big push on the border. You're probably going to hear a lot of discussion about the wall, and I think that has to be their first priority. Just one other thing on Bernie Sanders. The issue is that, he has always fought for organizing, right, and unions and leadership. But we saw in this race that President Trump stood up there with members of the union behind him who were in disagreement with their leadership.
And let's be clear about Bernie Sanders. His complaints about the administration not being strong enough with the working people, it is about not being liberal enough to suit him.
Right.
And that is those kinds of policies are among the things that union workers and other working class people are turning away from. So his point stands if you don't look at it too closely.
Well, that too. And then early in the Biden administration, the influence that Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren had in policy affected how Biden was perceived.
You could say that it was Joe Biden's administration, but Bernie Sanders' agenda.
Yeah. How long does it take the Democratic Party, Jessica, to come to this postmortem and figure out what to do next? A long time? Are we going to go through the stages of...
Yeah, but I think it's happening pretty fast because it was so widespread. Again, I think that if this had been something small that you could say, if I tweaked this, and I mean, we should know that the margins are actually pretty slim in this. It was 1.1%. Donald Trump has underperformed his vote total from 2020. It's just she underperformed Biden by 50.
Popular vote for the first time in 20 years.
I'm not diminishing what he accomplished. I'm saying he has 72 million votes now, and he got 74 million in 2020. So it will take a little bit of time. The question is, will we be ready for the midterms? If they do have the trifecta, that usually then favors the people who had lost. So we should do really well there. And how long are these voters going to stay with the Republican Party? Is the bro vote gone forever? What about the Latino coalition that is usually part of the Democratic base?
How do you get it back?
Yeah.
The Federalist, 2024's biggest loser is the corporate media industrial complex. If the past 8 years and the first few hours of Cope streaming from TV Wednesday morning are any indication, the legacy press isn't planning on repentance. They don't feel obliged or obligated to represent Americans. They feel entitled to control them. The loss of that control is making them apoplectic. The bullhorn is gone, Martha. They're not listening.
Yeah, I saw, it was shock, hunker down and fight back. They're continuing the language of basically fascism and how do we fight back against Trump. One thing I thought was interesting, though, is that this election, no one is disputing the outcome, which I think is very healthy for the country. One commentator this morning on MSNBC said, we lost this election and it had nothing to do with Russia. Just to be clear. And I thought, well, that's refreshing.
That's refreshing.
No, worry about the legacy media, Brett, and that is, I think that it made it easier for Democrats not to face up to what the voters were saying to them in 2016 and in certain elections since, including last night. And if the legacy media would start facing up to these things and reported it, we would, the Democrats would have an easier time waking up to it.
Yeah. Thanks, pal. Appreciate it. Finally, tonight is a special day.
Voting can be a stressful time for a lot of people. We also want to celebrate everyone doing their civic duty and coming out to vote. So we thought, what better way than bringing some puppies out to the polls?
We just decided we just needed puppies at the end of the show. The Arizona Humane Society went out and they helped people, surprise voters. They were feeling stressed about the election, and they had all kinds of terrier mixes and all kinds of puppies. We decided, you know what, we're going to end this election coverage with puppies because we all need puppies. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. You watched us the most. We really appreciate it. Fair, balanced, and unafraid. Here's Laura.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham Angle from Washington tonight. As always, thank you so much for joining us. We have a huge show for you tonight. Eric Trump is here, along with the House Speaker Mike Johnson, Senator-elect Bernie Moreno. But first, the Trump triumph. That's the focus of tonight's angle.
If you're like me, these past 9 years have been a total blur. Because from the day that Donald Trump came down that golden escalator back in 2015, right up until yesterday afternoon, the elites counted him out. This is not an actual campaign.
Right.
This is a high school play about a campaign.
This is
a bad school.
This
play.
is like a bad set of props that no one's going to look too closely at.
The Russians offered help. The campaign accepted help. That is pretty damning, whether it is proof beyond a reasonable doubt of conspiracy or not.
Trump has faced setbacks in court, dismal polls. It's been an unmitigated disaster.
I think he's more unhinged, more unstable. I think you see that all the time.
But, they weren't content to be